Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. This is a premium only live stream, but just give me a few minutes because I need to. Hey everyone, I need to send it out to everyone so that everyone sees it. So maybe just if you're watching this and you're not watching it live, maybe just skip to like the 2-minute mark or something so that I can post this for everyone to see. And so there's one place, all right. And then now I'm going to send it out to two more places. Just make sure everything is working. Okay, I'm gonna post it in Telegram. Nope. All right, I'm just trying to send out an email too, so hopefully this works. How's everyone doing? Oh, yeah, it's exciting times for sure. Exciting times for sure. Sorry, I'm just trying to send out an email to everyone so that let me see if this is the right link. Okay, it is. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and send this out and then we'll go ahead and dive in. Schedule, start sending out. All right, so all right, guys, it's a pretty exciting time in the market for sure. Remember, we need to remember this. You know, we've more or less trained for this for a long time, and I mean, in retrospective, it wasn't really that long ago that we were down here speculating on this to happen. Now, admittedly, it's happening a little earlier. You know, I didn't think we would get to 4K by May if you had asked me back in last March, but here we are. And the recipe was there. Okay, the recipe has been there. Again, we know what the recipe is. It's the bounce, Bitcoin still below the prior all-time high. So what I would say here is, you know, I personally am still relatively bullish on Ethereum. I mean, I'm not betting the family farm, and in fact, I recently took some profits, as you guys know, back to Bitcoin. If you go to the stop limits tab, I took that back to Bitcoin 1/10, and it more or less corresponded to 0.65 risk against the US dollar, 1/10 back to Bitcoin. But because I was so Ethereum heavy from converting back in December, I'm just trying to get some Bitcoin back. Okay, that's what I was trying to do. I was just trying to get some Bitcoin back, and yeah, 10% of my Ethereum to get a decent amount of my Bitcoin back. I think is worth it because, you know, the one thing we do know is at the end of the day, we can't be really sure whether Bitcoin is, whether the next leg for Bitcoin is going to be up or down. Okay, we can't be entirely sure. But what we can be sure of is the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation will go back down, or well, I mean, it might not go back down to these levels, but it will come back to earth whenever Bitcoin either goes back into price discovery mode or has a correction. And so because of that, systematically offsetting some risk makes a whole lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. So, you know, we discussed this last week in the premium list video. about selling, a small amount dynamic DCA. Now, I mentioned doing it here because that was where the 0.6 Ether Bitcoin risk level was. Fortunately, as you guys follow along in the Telegram channel, I was able to continue moving my stop up, and it was not hit until about 0.0585. So I sold 10% of my Ethereum back to Bitcoin right there. Okay, so I was able to squeak out a little bit more profit than I was originally thinking on that. But if you're looking at, say, an average entry over here, this was this was over 100% move from trading Bitcoin back to Ether in this area. And you'll notice I didn't take it all the way down here, but I also didn't take it up here. I just took it somewhere in here because that was more or less the average buy-in price of the Ethereum that I bought with the Bitcoin back in December. So remember, you always have to think about this in terms of the opposite of how say like the general market is thinking. Okay, so 10% here, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing when I started converting Bitcoin to Ethereum. I was doing it in here, and it kept going down, and I kept doing it, and then I kept doing it on the way back up, and then at some point, I stopped. And then we looked at this and we said, all right, this was a key time to be converting Bitcoin to Ethereum. But in the same manner, I feel like we've entered the phase where it makes sense to at least think about, the plan for going back the other direction, okay? Because we know it won't last forever. I mean, we understand the fact that these moves won't last forever. So that's why I said 10% here. And, for me, the 20% is still, or continuing to take profits is still a ways off for Ether Bitcoin. I think at the current risk levels, if we just go take a look, if you wanted to go Ether back to Bitcoin, we could look at the 0.7 risk level, and that corresponds to about 0.076, maybe about 0.0762. So 0.0762 to give you guys an idea of where that would be. So we're going to look at, sorry, I'm not really sure what happened here. So we're going to look at 0.0762. Where would that be? So it would be here. So that would be sort of the next area. If you're going, if you're just going Ether to Bitcoin. And then here, if we make it to that level, and you're just solely trading Ether to Bitcoin, and you follow, say, dynamic DCA, you'd be looking at 20%. And if you're following this strategy in the same way that you would have increased your Ethereum portfolio significantly over here at the expense of your Bitcoin portfolio, if we do something like this, this is where you would want to go back the other direction, okay? And so remember, you don't chase the pump, you typically sell out of it, not all at once, because one of the things is these things can go higher than most people imagine, right? And by the way, I'll try to get to some questions in a little bit, but I just sort of want to first give my sort of talk about the market a little bit, and then we'll do tons of questions. I'm planning on staying here for a while. So if something like this were to happen, and this is what I said back over here, you don't want to sell all your Ether. There were some people selling all their Ether at that point. And I'm like, why do you do that? And you want to leave yourself the potential upside. And so, if you do 10% here, and then if we make it to this level, maybe you do 20% back to Bitcoin. And then, if we go up to the next one, we'd be looking at 0.8 risk. We'd be talking about 0.1, guys. About 0.1 right here. That would be 30%, okay? So right here, if we follow, if you're following this and we make it to that level, it would be 30%, okay? And then you're like, well, what's 40%, right? What's the final one? Well, the final one would be all the way up here at 0.139, okay? So that would be really high up here. Okay, and again, remember, these are dynamic. But look at that, look at it. It coincidentally corresponds right now to the prior top, more or less, okay? So that's what it would look like, okay? So 10%, we've already hit that. If we continue to go up, maybe we'll hit the 20% milestone. If we continue to go back up, maybe 30%. And then if we can do something like that, which would be absolutely ridiculous, we'd be looking at 40%. Okay. Now I should say that this is not all of my Ethereum. Okay. So if we do something like that, I will not have converted all of my Ethereum to Bitcoin. Okay. You may say, well, why not? Remember, I avoid short-term capital gains at all costs. Okay. I really don't want to pay short-term capital gains. So there are bags of Ethereum that I have no interest in selling until I've been holding it for at least a year. And considering I was buying Ethereum as late December and early January of 2021, or late 2020 and even going into 2021, there's going to be some Ethereum that I have no business selling for a long time. But we were buying, I was buying Ethereum for a long time now, so I have plenty of positions. So this would be the idea, okay? And the idea would be, a systematic offsetting your risk back to Bitcoin if you want to increase your Bitcoin stack, okay? If you want to increase your Bitcoin stack. And you might say, well, Ben, what if Bitcoin has a correction? Right? What if Bitcoin has a correction and we're sitting here accumulating Bitcoin, and then if Bitcoin drops 40%? Well, remember, I already have a sizable stablecoin stack, okay? That was the purpose of a lot of the profits that I've taken. And look at all these yellow ones. You see all these yellow boxes? These are profits from coins that went to stable coins. So I have a decent stablecoin position. And one of the things we know is that Bitcoin, well, I guess we shouldn't say we know. We don't really know anything at the end of the day. We claim to know things. But one of the things we think we know is that Bitcoin will stand the test of time. Okay, is that Bitcoin will stand the test of time. And you guys can see when Bitcoin made it up to 0.875 risk a few weeks ago, I converted some of that to Ethereum. Most of it went to stablecoins, but some of it went to Ethereum because we were anticipating this move by Ethereum. Now we're getting the move by Ethereum. Now we're getting it. This is literally what we trained for years. We discussed the implications of Ethereum having this type of a move. So anyways, we discussed the implications. Sorry, my kid just came back here. Anyways, we discussed the implications of Ethereum having this move against Bitcoin. We are in the midst of it. We literally, we have the bounce. We have the bounce. Now, something I want to draw your attention to, because there's clearly two ways that Bitcoin can go here. And they're pretty obvious, of course. So let's look at this, okay? And we're gonna look at all scenarios, because I've told you guys before, it's not about necessarily knowing what will happen for sure. It's about preparing for either scenario so you capitalize on every scenario. Okay, so for Bitcoin, scenario one, let's go through the bad scenario first for people that don't want to see the market go down. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing Bitcoin have a correction and then kind of coming back in with some of my stablecoin positions back into Bitcoin pretty heavy. And so the one thing we should consider is, okay, well, if Bitcoin goes back to the 20-week, or if it goes below the 20-week, we know Ether will correct against Bitcoin. Okay, we would fully expect Ethereum to correct against Bitcoin, especially if Bitcoin's below the 20-week. Okay, this is not good territory for Ethereum when Bitcoin's going down. If Bitcoin were over here, like let's say the 20-week were over here, let's just say worst case scenario and Bitcoin drops like that, and then we start coming back up. In that type of a scenario, Ethereum is going to bleed crazy against Bitcoin in this region, but it can do okay back on the way out. So the first thing, if Bitcoin drops at some point over the next few weeks or months, Ethereum is going to bleed against Bitcoin, and that's the scenario we want to play out for. But the other scenario is, what if it doesn't, right? What if Bitcoin goes back into price discovery? We've talked about this. Some people might look at this and just say this is an accumulation phase. It's fairly extended from prior accumulation phases, but it's not that weird looking of an accumulation phase. If you just look at it for what it is, right? If we look at this and then also go back and look at other accumulation phases, we've seen similar things. Look at this one. Look at this accumulation phase that Bitcoin had back in about a year ago. In fact, more or less did the same thing. We went sideways for quite some period of time, and this was around 89 days, so about 3 months. So about 3 months where Bitcoin went sideways, and it actually bounced off the 100-day moving average. And it was the bounce off the 100-day that we went up, and then we actually came back down to the 100-day, and then we continued along. So what I would say is, whether Bitcoin corrects or not, and let's see how long we've been in this range so far. So currently we've been in it for about 89 days. So we about the same amount of time. So this one was around 89 days before Bitcoin broke out, and we had another leg up. 89 days over here, and so this one's also 89 days, and also again a bounce off the 100-day SMA. So the reason I say this is because what I would like, I don't always get what I'd like. What I would like would be a correction. But if we don't get a correction, then that's why I'm converting some of the Ethereum back to Bitcoin, because at the end of the day, I don't know if we're going to get a correction to the 20-week moving average next week or not. But whatever happens, whether Bitcoin goes back into price discovery mode or we get that correction, we're gonna want to have some more Bitcoin in that type of scenario. So for me, it was 10%, 20% if we make it here, and for Ethereum to make it there against Bitcoin, we would need to go up another 20% or so against Bitcoin. And just so you're aware, at the current valuation, so Ether Bitcoin to get to 0.7 risk, we'd be looking at around 0.076. So let's figure out what that would be at the current valuation of Bitcoin. So 0.076 times about, what are we at, like 59.2? We'd be looking at around a $4,500 Ethereum. So if Bitcoin stays constant and Ethereum goes to say $4,500, then we would be looking, we would definitely be looking at that next milestone for Ethereum. Okay, so that's if you're wanting to go Ethereum back to Bitcoin. Like if you're operating in a deterministic mindset and you've decided, hey, Bitcoin's going to 6 figures, and I know that Ethereum's not going to continue doing this crazy stuff for forever. I want to make sure I secure those profits. 10%, it's hardly anything, but it's enough to make a difference if Bitcoin goes up. If Ethereum continues to go up and we're going up to say like 4,500, and if the Bitcoin valuation is the same, maybe 20%, we continue going up. What would be 0.1? Well, guys, 0.1, the 0.1 Ether Bitcoin valuation, that's easy math, right? It's rookie math, just 10%. We'd be looking at about almost $6,000 Ethereum. Now, a $6,000 Ethereum on Ether USD, let's go look at that. So a $6,000 Ethereum on Ether USD would put us at 0.8 risk, okay? So if Ether were to go to 0.8 risk, that would be about a $6,000 Ethereum. And so that would be this level up here, okay? $6,000 Ethereum for constant Bitcoin. So again, I'm not claiming we're going to make it to any of those levels, but that's the beauty of this strategy, is it doesn't really rely on knowing exactly what will happen. It's just whatever does happen, you react accordingly. And the Ethereum valuation against Bitcoin has gone up quickly enough, in my opinion, to merit that first 10% conversion back to Bitcoin. That's ultimately what I'm trying to say, is that it's gone up far enough and quickly enough to merit a 10% conversion back to Bitcoin. And then if it continues to go up, then maybe another 20%. If it continues to go up for there, 30%, and then higher and higher. Again, that looks like 100%, but it's 100% of the Ethereum I'm willing to trade. I still have some in short-term capital gains territory that I don't want to trade. And I've also encouraged people that even if you don't have to worry about taxes, you might want to have, or one of the strategies we've discussed is you could have like a stack that you just sort of hold on to, and you just sort of lock it away for 10 years and you just don't even think about it. But I like to take the majority out and then sort of trade in and out, because we know these moves won't last forever. They can certainly go on longer than most will think, and that's why we look at these macro charts. I mean, look at this move. Look at this move by Ethereum against Bitcoin. This was like a 1800% move that started in December and topped in June. Okay, December to June. Look at this one. This one started in December. Right now we're in May, and we're at almost 200%. If we were to go back up to this level by June, we'd be looking at about 500%. I don't expect a 1,700% move against Bitcoin. I don't, because again, we have diminishing returns here, even against Bitcoin valuations. If we were to go up 1,700%, to give you an idea how ridiculous that would be, we'd be looking at a valuation of Ethereum of about 0.4 against Bitcoin. And I don't think Ethereum has any chance at all to make it to a valuation of 0.4 against Bitcoin. So let's be realistic in what we're projecting here. So that sort of handles Ethereum. And I mean, if we just look at this move, let's actually switch this over to the daily time frame. We can see that things are really heating up. We sort of had this move for a while, sort of moved up here. I mean, obviously we bounced off of these levels as well, but I mean, things are really starting to heat up here. And so I just want everyone to sort of know, sort of be on board with kind of where we are. And if you go to the monthly time frame, this is an interesting chart. Look at the monthly time frame for Ether USD and look at the RSI on the monthly time frame. Now this is super interesting. Okay, the monthly RSI on Ether USD. So we have passed where we were back in January of 2018 with respect to the Ether Bitcoin valuation, RSI anyways, the Ether Bitcoin RSI. We've passed that. We're getting close to these levels. And you'll note that these levels they calm down once we reach the summer time frame. And that it didn't even mean that we had a major correction. I mean, we did have a correction. If you look at the top of that wick and go down to the bottom of the next month, look at that. I mean, it might not look like much because you're looking at the whole market cycle. Look at that correction. That's a 68% correction. A 68% correction that happened over those 2 months. 68%. Okay? And so that's what I'm saying here is and I've been saying for a few months now that I could see Ethereum continuing to go up against USD in May, maybe even June. But once we get into the July, August, September timeframe, I think by that point, a lot of times Bitcoin starts to the momentum sort of subtly shifts back to Bitcoin around that time period. And it's going to either switch to it because Bitcoin's going back into price discovery mode and maybe going to like 80K or something, or it's because Bitcoin's having a correction. It doesn't really matter which one it is. We just know that Ethereum's going to bleed against Bitcoin whenever that does happen. So that's what I'm saying. I think Ethereum can continue to move up in May, maybe June. It depends on how far we go in May. But once we get into the summer, like the mid to late summer, I have a hard time seeing Ethereum continuing this without some type of cool off phase. Because one of the things we've discussed before too is everyone's talking about this major Ethereum correction, and I'll agree with you that there will be a correction at some point. The problem is that what if it goes up another few $1,000s and then it corrects, and then maybe it corrects to that level, and so the people that sold here, it never actually corrects back to those levels. And so if you go look at Bitcoin last cycle, there were definitely phases where you could have called for a correction all during this entire period, and it did finally have a correction, but it still corrected to a level that was nowhere near where the prior move had started. So this was at 886, then it went up to $3,000 and then corrected back down to $1,800. And then we went up to $5,000 and then we corrected back to $3,000. And then we went up to $20,000 and then we had our major correction back down to $3,100. Okay, so that's what that's something to keep in mind. Now, I want us to look, and believe me, we're going to get to questions, I promise, but I want to show everything I've been looking at. I want us to look at one thing, and that's what if Bitcoin does not go back into price discovery mode and continues to do something like this. So look at what we need to do as we're going to continue to make one more Ethereum comparison against Bitcoin. Okay, and this would probably be the most conservative comparison of the Ether Bitcoin valuation, but it's worth looking at because we don't want to leave any stone unturned. Okay, now go back to 2017. Bitcoin peaked on December 17th. Okay, Bitcoin peaked on December 17th. Okay, and I'm going to take this out to January 13th. That was 27 days. Why January 13th? Well, January 13th was the day that Ethereum peaked. Okay, so Bitcoin had its peak on the 27 days before Ethereum had its own peak. And just to give you an idea of where Ethereum currently is, where was Bitcoin's at least local top? I don't consider this to be Bitcoin's market cycle top by any means. So let's just make that clear. I don't consider it to be Bitcoin's market cycle top. But let's just take a move. How far out are we? So 27 days out, which would be the same amount of time, 27 days out would put us on May 8th. Or sorry, not May 8th. It would put us on May 11th. Okay, it would put us on today's May 8th. It would put us on May 11th. And so that's what I'm just looking at, because I want everyone to sort of look at the whole picture here and realize that it's in that bounce by Bitcoin that Ethereum does absolutely crazy. And Ethereum went absolutely crazy back in 2017, 2018 on this bounce, right? On this bounce. This is when Ethereum went absolutely crazy. But Bitcoin did not put in a new all-time high. Okay, it did not put in a new all-time high. But we know that this was not actually Ethereum's top against Bitcoin. January 13th was not Ethereum's top against Bitcoin, okay? So you might think it probably should have been, but it wasn't. The top against Bitcoin happened on January 29th, the week of January 29th. And we know what happened on January 29th for Bitcoin. I'm sure many of you guys know what happened on January 29th for Bitcoin. That was the week that Bitcoin broke the 20-week SMA, okay? So that's what you need to be on the lookout for. As long as we're above the 20-week SMA, as I've continued to say, Ether Bitcoin probably continues to look bullish. And as long as Bitcoin's not in price discovery mode, Ether probably looks bullish against Bitcoin. We're sort of in between right now, right? You look at where Bitcoin is. We are from the 20-week SMA. We are about 24% above it. We are about 24% above it. And below the prior all-time high, so we're about 24% above the 20-week SMA, and we are about 8.5% below the prior all-time high. Okay, so the beauty of this, of say dynamic DCA, of Ethereum back to Bitcoin as we hit these various milestones, is it doesn't matter what Bitcoin does. It doesn't matter if it goes below the 20-week. And it doesn't matter if it goes back into price discovery mode. We know that at that time, Ether will likely bleed against Bitcoin. And so for now, I took 10% of the profits back to Bitcoin. And if Ether continues to go up, it'll just be more and more. And again, if you want to go back to USD, I would suggest looking at the USD risk levels and recognizing that 0.7 risk comes quickly at around 42.70, 0.8 risk comes at 59.33. 0.9 risk comes at 79.63. I do not think Ethereum can make it to these levels. So I don't think Ethereum's going to make it because it does not account for diminishing returns. I don't think Ether USD, I don't think the valuation can make it to these prices. Now, if Ether were to go sideways for 3 months, these would all adjust and they would correspond to different prices. But what I'm saying is, like, in the next week or so, Ethereum has no chance of making it to $8,500. Well, I don't want to say no chance, but very little chance of Ethereum making it to $8,500 in the next week. In 4 months from now, if Bitcoin's still healthy, sure, but not in the next week. So hopefully that gives a pretty good overview of Bitcoin and Ethereum. This is the time on Ethereum we've been waiting for years. We've been waiting for this move forever. We're now getting it. Don't squander it. Okay, don't squander it. Don't worry about squeaking out every absolute ounce of profit you can have, because, and you might say, well, Ben, why'd you already convert 10% if you're bullish? Hey, because I don't know. I mean, maybe Bitcoin goes back to 65K tomorrow, or dumps to the 20-week tomorrow, and at least I took something. That's the reason. At least I took something. Now, ADA Bitcoin is I mean, it's at 2,700 satoshis. I've said it still looks relatively bullish against Bitcoin, and you can see that it's been trending up against Bitcoin over the last several weeks. So ADA is now at $1.61. DOT seems like it's in this long accumulation phase. And we actually had a bounce off of our bull market support band not too long ago for the DOT USD valuation. So again, I still have my DOT. I have not sold any of it. I was accumulating. If you guys were following the channel back in 2020, we were accumulating it between $3 to $6 in this band here. Okay, and now it's in this band. And I will contend that in the grand scheme of the market cycle, this is probably still a solid price. In the grand scheme of the market cycle, it's a solid price. In the short term, I don't know. I mean, maybe it is, or maybe it's not, and maybe we come back over here and consolidate again and go higher. But in the grand scheme of the market cycle, if you don't own any, for all these coins, for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, ADA, or DOT, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with DCAing into them with the mindset of, hey guys, it's not a quick flip. We know that there can be short-term pullbacks. Link Bitcoin still looks relatively bullish. Okay, we had the weekly close above the 20-week. We had one red week, another green week. We're in the middle of another green week. I'm still relatively bullish on Link as we go into the summer. We know a lot of times Link shines when Bitcoin does not. So that summer, the implication of $100 Link this summer is likely contingent on Bitcoin not being constantly in price discovery mode all summer long. If Bitcoin's in price discovery mode, rest assured, Link Bitcoin is coming back down. Okay, so there's no free lunch here. There's no free lunch. We know the risk. That's why we weight the portfolio so that Bitcoin is the highest percentage. It controls the market. Then Ethereum, and then so I mean for me in order again, it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, ADA, and DOT. And I say it like that because that's the order I want them to be in: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, ADA, and DOT. The risk levels. Let's look at the risk levels. Okay, the total market cap risk is above 0.8, so we're still remaining heated. To go to a total market cap risk of 1, we would need to go to a total crypto asset class of 3.63 trillion. Okay, 3.63 trillion. If we pull up where we currently are, you can see we're approaching a modest 2.5 trillion. Okay, so total market cap risk, or total market cap is at 2.5 trillion, almost, not quite, 2.466 trillion, almost 2.5 trillion. For us to go to a risk of 1, it would correspond to 3.63 trillion. How could we get there in the short term? Well, I mean, if Bitcoin continues to push higher, goes above 60K, 61K, 62K, 63K, we're gonna be pushing up. And as long as Bitcoin remains below price discovery mode, there's still a good chance altcoins are going to shine. So that's one way we could get there. That's certainly one way we could get there is Bitcoin continuing to surge and altcoins running off Ethereum's coattails as well. Because remember, even in prior cycles when Ethereum moved, there are phases of it where altcoins will move as well. I mean, back in 2017, 2018, Ethereum moved for several weeks in a row, and a lot of altcoins did really well during that time period. And even ADA is recently putting in new all-time highs. So we know that altcoins are capable of putting in new all-time highs, even when Ethereum is surging. I mean, it's just that Ethereum sucks up most of the profits. And this is one of the things of ADA we were looking at was, are we in this one, or are we sort of slowly trending up? I want to remind you, and then we'll start to answer questions. I want to remind you that sign up for the NFT, okay? And if you already did it, I would recommend doing it again. So go to, or not doing it again, just verifying that it is. Go to app.intothe.cryptoverse.com and make sure you're signed up. If you don't see a saved Ethereum address there, then you're not signed up. And there have been people that thought they had saved it that hadn't. So if you want to ensure that you're going to get it, make sure you check it out. You might say, well, Ben, you said the deadline was Friday. The deadline was Friday, but then we had some people that were having some technical issues getting it in. And so we fixed that. And so I just want to, we're just sort of extending it through the weekend. I'm not going to mention it anymore on any of the public stuff. So just make sure, if you haven't, go put in your public Ethereum address make sure, if you can, I would prefer you guys to not use the Ethereum address you have all your crypto stored in. I would prefer you to create a new Ethereum address so that people can't tie it to whatever your main account is. But check that out, app.intothecryptoverse.com. Go put in your Ethereum address. Check out the description below if you want the link and some information on where to go if you're having trouble. So the NFT we're just sort of extending it, just like a soft extension through the weekend to make sure everyone gets it. Because guys, hey, once it's minted, it's gone. I can't do anything about it. I can't, okay? Once it's minted, that's it. That's all she wrote on it. So go to app.intothecryptoverse.com and verify. And then the other thing, if you want to, I feel like a lot of people aren't even on the Telegram channel, but I do think a lot of the value comes from that. So if you want to get added to the Telegram alerts channel, go to Telegram and message at ITC_admin_bot, and you will be invited to the Telegram alerts channel. Okay. So let's why don't we take that? Why don't we use this as a moment to jump? I mean, look at this move. Look at this move. The thing is that a lot of people look at these types of moves and then when it gets to 2,500, they say, all right, it's going to have a major correction. And then when it gets to 3,000, okay, it's going to have a major correction. The thing is this is the time when it can go up quicker than most people can imagine. And then it's the people that sell all their ether over here, and then they FOMO in up here, which drives the price even higher. And that's the whole reason behind dynamic DCA and systematically taking profits off the table as we continue moving along. Okay, so that's the whole idea. Nothing, you certainly don't do it all at once or anything like that. All right, so what questions do we have? All right, someone wants to look at Ether Link. We'll take a look at the Ether Link valuation. Link Ether, I'm not Ether Link. Link Ether. So Link Ether still looks relatively bearish, okay? And I think everyone is fully aware of that. I don't think Link is going to go through any type of major bubble against Bitcoin until it's no longer bearish against Ethereum. That's my guess here is, it's easy to imagine, we obviously want Link to go super bullish against Bitcoin, but as long as Ethereum, Link doesn't really like sharing the spotlight with anyone, if history is any indication. So for Link, I would say until we're above the 20-week SMA against Ether, like we were for such a long period of time, until that happens, I'm not gonna say Link's about to make this imminent move to $100. I think we need Ethereum to really calm down before that is a very likely scenario. So we'd like Ether to calm down. And right now you can see we're still well below it. All right, Alexander has a question. If I'm new to the space and not looking to take profit for 3 to 4 years, do you think it's a good idea to start blindly DCAing weekly and interest-bearing account like BlockFi, just Bitcoin, Ethereum? Absolutely. If you only care if you're only interested in 3 to 4 year time frames, I think, a blind DCA, Bitcoin first, then Ethereum, you do it weekly. The hard part is doing it when things are bearish. Okay, so that's going to be the hard part for you. Is can you stick to your resolve, and when the bears come out, when the angry grizzly bears come out and send the price back down, can you continue to DCA weekly? If you can, I think this is a great strategy because in the market cycle, time is on our side. But in the grand scheme of even regardless of market cycle, like forget about all market cycle theory for a second, like pretend like market cycles aren't even a thing. Just look at the Bitcoin chart, okay? And actually, let me switch it over to one that has a little bit more history. Absolutely, if you're new to the space, and you're not looking to take profits for 3 to 4 years, I can tell you that for 4 years on Bitcoin, you'd be hard pressed to find a time where your ROI in 4 years is not at least 10x. That's what the data says. But look at this chart for Bitcoin. Okay, so it generally moves up. So over the macro scale, and by the way, even the people that bought up here, if there were newer people, let's say some new people came in here and said, hey, should I buy Bitcoin? And they just start buying, they just start blindly DCAing. They don't really care about the top. They just keep DCAing because they see it as a long-term investment. And then eventually, right, you just keep DCAing for 2 or 3 years. And then eventually all of your buys are in the money. Okay. So yeah, if you're new, then you have to recognize that is a valid strategy, right? It is a valid strategy to do it like that. And I've often said before too, even if you were buying over here, like in California, you're still doing well today. Okay, you're still doing well today. If you're buying in Texas, right, you're doing phenomenally well. If you're buying in Florida, you're doing well. If you're buying in the Carolinas, you're doing well. Yeah, if you're starting to buy up here in Maine, you could still do well. Maybe we'll go to Nova Scotia. I don't know. Maybe we will. But regardless of what state you bought in, even if you bought over here in California, you're still doing fairly well. Okay, and I think that's the important thing to realize. All right, let's go through some of the questions. If Ether Link is in the 0.1 risk band, I don't understand why it's so bad to swap. It's not bad to swap. I sold some Ether the other day to Link. If you are going to take some profits off of Ether as it navigates up some of these risk bands, like imagine it goes to like 5K, 6K, 7K. If Link is still chilling at like $50 or something, yeah, I think that's probably a great place to take profits. Look at the Link Ether risk. We're all the way down to 0.177. So that I think that is something to keep in mind, is that if you're taking profits. So here's a few things. If you're buying one of these assets, you want to buy it with the lowest risk one. Okay, so for instance, if you want to buy ADA, to buy it with the lowest risk, you would buy it with Ethereum, because buying it with USD has a higher risk, buying it with Bitcoin has a higher risk, buying it with Ethereum is the lowest risk. So if you want to buy ADA, buying it, you look for the lowest risk and you see it's Ethereum. If you want to buy Link, you look for the lowest risk and you see it's Ethereum. If you want to buy Ethereum, you look for the lowest risk and you see it's still Bitcoin. Actually, it's still Bitcoin. So buying Ethereum is a little bit less risky to do with Bitcoin than doing it with USD. And then buying, if you wanted to buy Bitcoin, you can see how less risky it is to do it with Ether. Okay, so if you're buying Bitcoin, buying with USD is relatively risky. Buying with Ether is not nearly as risky, because you're basically taking one of these assets that's been pumping against it for a month and a half now, and is a good chance is going to continue to pump against it. So if Ether continues to go up against Bitcoin like this, okay, then this number here is going to get lower and lower and lower. And then it's going to make even more sense to keep converting to Bitcoin to protect your profits and to secure it, okay? That's the idea. Now, if you want to sell your crypto, like let's sell, instead of buying it, if you want to think about it the other way, let's say you want to sell your crypto, then to minimize your risk, you sell it to the highest risk, okay? So if you wanted to sell Link, where would you sell it to offset your risk the most? You would sell it to USD, because that's the highest risk level. If you want to sell, or that's ADA. If you want to sell Link, yeah, you would sell it to USD. If you want to sell ADA, you would sell it to USD. If you want to sell Ethereum, you would sell it to USD. And if you want to sell Bitcoin, you would do it to USD. This might seem weird to you, but if you go back a few months, these charts this looked a lot different. Let me see if I can find one. Let me see if I can find like a risk chart from like a few months ago, so I can show you guys like what I'm talking about and how it's changed very, very quickly over the last few months, because it doesn't always look like that. It's not always going to USD is what minimizes your risk. It's certainly not true. Let me see. I might have to. I'm going to go back further. I'm scrolling back to February. I might have to go all the way back to like last year or something. Let me just go back a little bit more. Maybe back in think back in December. Okay, here's one. All right, so here's a good example. Let me snip this so you guys can see it. So this is what the risk dashboard looked like back in October. So this would have been a good example. This would have been a good example, okay? Because here, to sell, if you were selling your link, okay? If you were selling your link, it would have made more sense to sell it to Bitcoin because the Bitcoin risk level was higher. So that's what we did, right? That's why we were going back to Bitcoin. Not a lot of it wasn't going to USD. It was going back to Bitcoin when we were in that summer bubble, because that's where it made the most sense to minimize your risk, was going back to that. And if you guys want to see what it looked like back in, I mean, what was it? Was it like August? I think it was August when a link peaked against Bitcoin. I believe it was August. Yeah. Let me show you guys this one. So back in August of 2020, look at that. Look at the risk level on Link Bitcoin. That's why it made so much sense for us to go back to Bitcoin back then, because of how far extended Link was with respect to Bitcoin. And then here was another one just a week earlier before that one, and look at the Link Bitcoin risk. You can see it was 0.934, and that's why it made sense to take some of those profits back to Bitcoin, because it was the Link Bitcoin risk was just so high, and it actually did hit 1.00 at one point. I know that it did, and it stayed that way for about 2 days, I believe, maybe 3 days. I think it was like 2 or 3 days it stayed at 1.00, and then that was the time. Here it is, I found it. So let's see when this was. So this was, August 16th. You can see Link Bitcoin hit 1.00. That's why it made so much sense to go back to Bitcoin. That was at 151,000 Satoshis. And if you go look at the chart, that's right there. It's right here. 150,000. So that was right there, was reaching the top of our risk band. And that's why it made so much sense to go back to Bitcoin back then over USD, because the Link Bitcoin risk was 1, which was higher than the Link USD risk. So it made sense to go back to Bitcoin. And we know that it made sense because look, August of 2020, going back to Bitcoin from Link, what happened in August of 2020? Look. Okay, we dropped 10 or 20%, and then we shot up, okay? That's why it made sense. Because the risk against Bitcoin was so high, we knew that the narrative at that point had to be spent, and that Bitcoin, going back to Bitcoin at this point is where it made the most sense. And that's why, when we were at the 20-week back then, it made the most sense to be buying Bitcoin, because no matter whether Bitcoin goes down, goes up, or it goes sideways, most altcoins likely bleed against it at that point. And then once Bitcoin starts going, then you can start converting your Bitcoin to altcoins and getting a better deal at these levels back in December, like we did with Ethereum. Like we did with Ethereum here, and now hopefully we're sort of in this other arch where maybe we come back the other way. Hopefully that answered your question on Link Ether or Link Bitcoin. Why use stablecoins instead of USD? Well, I'll tell you why. You can earn interest. You can pretty easily earn 8 to 9% on stablecoins. And I think a lot of people kind of just stick their nose up at it, like, oh, I'm not going to get out of bed for 8 to 9%. And I'm not telling you should get out of bed for it. I'm just saying 8 to 9% on stablecoins is pretty good, and it's not going to stay that way forever. So you might as well take advantage of it. If you're just sitting on cash, earning interest, I think, is a great idea, because then you're going to have more money to buy whatever dip you want to buy, right? Whenever the dip comes, you'll even have more money than you otherwise would have if you're earning interest on your stablecoins and not just letting it sit in cash. Someone says, I thought crypto to crypto was not taxable, but crypto to stablecoins was taxable. It depends on where you live. In the United States, any of these trades are taxable. If you live somewhere else, I can't really tell you, because I have no idea, because it doesn't really affect me like these other. But there are countries where crypto to crypto trades are not taxable. But the United States is one of the countries where it is. So you have to figure out, you'll have to figure out the laws in your own country. What risk factor would 5 to 7 trillion market cap be? Well, according to the risk metric, we cannot go there at the current time. We would need many months to make it to where we could theoretically go to 7 trillion. Right now, the market cap risk suggests that 3.63 trillion is the highest we could theoretically go in the short term. Obviously, these slowly move up, okay? So they do slowly move up with time. But in the short term, it looks like 3.63 trillion is the theoretical cap based on prior moves and diminishing returns. Yeah, someone says if the American capital gains tax changes according to Biden's plan, how will that change your strategy? It might actually change my strategy some. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Biden has proposed basically to have like a there's not going to be much if it passes, which there's a good chance it won't pass. But if it does pass, he's proposing that for incomes over a certain level, it basically, there's not going to be a huge distinction between short-term and long-term capital gains. So you basically paying 40% either way. This obviously does not affect everyone. Like, you know, it does not affect everyone. But, you know, 40% is a lot. 40% is a lot. So it would be harder to make some of these swing trades in the event that passes. Hopefully something like that doesn't pass, because 40% just seems absolutely ridiculous to me. If you've been holding the asset for over a year, 40% is ridiculous. And then also you have to add on like the state taxes. There's some states you're going to be paying like over 50% in capital gains if that passes. So I personally hope it doesn't pass, because it's going to really eat into all of our profits if it does. I mean, I don't really want to talk about, get into the politics. I'm just sort of talking about that specific policy of, 40% is going to hurt everyone trading crypto. I mean, that's just what it is. Yeah, I don't think coins like ADA can go to 0.9 risk, okay? And that's sort of looking, I mean, I think Link might be able to. This is why they're grayed out here. Like, I don't think ADA can make, I feel like this is probably the highest it can go. I don't think it can go to 0.9, the 0.9 to 1 risk band, because it doesn't account for diminishing returns. So when you look at this, I would just assume that anything past this point is just theoretically unobtainable in the short term. Okay, so I mean, you could, like, just delete it. I'm not going to leave it that way, but just assume that, I would assume that that's not possible in the short term. What if Ethereum sustainably flips Bitcoin? I think this is a real possibility this cycle. I don't think it's a possibility. I mean, everyone's going to be talking about it. I don't think it'll flip it. Let me say that. I don't think it'll flip it. But if it does, I really don't think it'll be sustainable. I really do not think it'll be anywhere close to being sustainable. And I mean, if you look at where we currently are, we're at 442. One thing we can do to get a little bit more insight into the market is to go to the Ethereum market cap and divide it by the Bitcoin market cap. So let's not worry about the prices. Let's just look at the market caps. So this level shows you that we don't even have that much further to go to reach the theoretical top for the Ether Bitcoin market cap, because we would need to go up about 80% more, and we would be there at that, what was it, like 72%? Yeah, this was when it reached 72%, when the Ethereum market cap came to within 72% of Bitcoin. So if Ethereum were to pump another 80% from the current price, where would that put us for a constant Bitcoin? It would put us right below 7K. So if Ethereum were to go to 7K and Bitcoin were to remain constant, which it won't, then we'd be looking at the same market cap valuation of Ethereum against Bitcoin that we saw back over here in early 2018. All right. Why is the formatting all messed up? Yeah, I should fix the formatting, but I just haven't. Well, this one looks okay, but yeah, I need to fix the formatting. I just haven't fixed it. I don't really. I mean, it's just the numbers that are important, anyways. All right. How do I track my transactions? Look, there's plenty of platforms. There's plenty of platforms that you can use for crypto to crypto trades. And so I mean, there's tons of them. And I just track it through that. And you can, I mean, depending on what country you're in, you can export it and do your taxes that way. I just have an accountant that does it. But there's tons of platforms out there for crypto to crypto trades. And that way you can track your taxes. When will the ITC Avalanche staking start? Probably early this week. We're actually doing we're running on the testnet right now. So if you're not familiar with Avalanche, we have a we're testing it on the testnet, and assuming that goes well, then we're going to be launching it on the mainnet. So if you have Avalanche and you want an interest on it, we should be having that up and running early this week. When will DOT have enough history to have a confident risk level? At least one market cycle. You know, guys, to give you guys an idea, I mean, it's the whole thing with this risk confidence. If you're new and you've looked at this, you see the risk confidence. You can see that Bitcoin is total market cap's 9, Bitcoin's 9. As we get down here, it's lower. You see this one, it's 1. Like Tezos, I don't own Tezos, but I know some of you guys like it. It's 1 because it hasn't been here long enough. And look, the risk level's 0.9. It makes no sense for it to be 0.9, but that's just what it is because there's just not enough data to go off of. So we could have one for DOT, but it would just look really, really high. And then the problem with that is it would scare people off. I think it would scare people off. Whereas I think that even if you don't own DOT, even now is not the worst time in the world to just slowly DCA into it and maybe do it for the next 6 to 12 months, which is what I did back in 2020. I just DCA'd into it for 5 months straight between $3 to $6. My worry is that if I, let's say this one were say like 0.9, and someone saw this and they don't buy it, and you might say, well, you have it for Tezos. Well, yeah, I'm trying to scare people off. That's why it's there. I'm trying to say, hey, I don't think this one's really going much of anywhere. I mean, yeah, it's gone up a little bit, but who cares? It barely moved in the last, what? I mean, it was $2, not that. I mean, a year ago, and it's only at $7 today. So for me, I leave it there because, hey, maybe people will think like, yeah, this is kind of high. But look, the risk confidence is 1. Okay, so Tezos, it just doesn't have a whole lot of history. The risk level is really high. It doesn't really mean anything. So if we had the same thing for DOT, we could, but it might scare people off from thinking, that it's a good investment, and so that's why it's not there. I would assume, generally speaking, that it probably traces, some of these other ones. So I would say it's probably between like 0.5 to 0.7 risk band right now. Yeah, I mean, I know some of you guys like Tezos. Look, it's one of those things where I get that you guys like it. I really do. But if we're just being pragmatic here, and that's, we're not going to marry an altcoin. We just look at what it does. Look at this. I mean, look at it's ridiculous. This is an 87% drop against Ethereum since April of 2020. Like over the last year, Tezos has dropped almost 90% against Ethereum. So by holding Tezos, you're taking on more risk because it's an altcoin with a much smaller market cap, and it's giving you a lot worse return than Ethereum. So for me, this is just not something I'm remotely interested in at all. So Tezos against Ether's bleeding. I mean, look at Tezos against Bitcoin. I mean, let's just be honest, right? I mean, well, I guess it looks a little bit better, but let's just take a look. From the peak to where we currently are, about 70% drop. So again, guys, if you guys hold Tezos, I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully it comes up here. But the problem is if you look at Tezos USD, and this is going to be a painful chart for some of you guys to look at, but if you look at Tezos USD, you might say, well, hey, this looks pretty good. Look at this, it's just moving up. Guys, look, March of 2020 to today, it's up 400%, not even 400%. 400% in the last 14 months? Guys, 400% in 14 months. If we go to Bitcoin's candle, we don't even go to the wick, go to the candle, Bitcoin's up 1,000% in the same time period. In the same time period. So, I mean, yeah, 400% is nice. The opportunity cost is really high. And during the bear market, we spent a lot of time talking about opportunity cost on a lot of these cryptos. Because if you throw your money in 100 different coins, there's a lot of opportunity cost. If you put your money into Ethereum instead of Tezos a year ago, your Tezos would have bled 90% against Ethereum. By putting it into Ethereum, you have a lot more money now than you did back then. So yeah, 400% is nice. The opportunity cost on that is really, really high because you're missing out on Bitcoin going up like 1,000%, really more than 1,000% if you go down to the wick. And more than that, you're missing out on Ethereum going up 3,600%. So not only Tezos went up like 400%, but look at this, Ethereum went up 3,600%. So again, this is why I'm not a huge fan of Tezos. So, I mean, I know you guys like it, or some of you guys like it, so that's why it's here. But I really have no interest in it, and I wish you guys the best of luck. I really do hope it pumps for you guys so that you guys can take some profits on it. Like, I'm not rooting against you by any means. I hope it goes up, but it's just not something that I want to put my money in because it doesn't look like it just looks like it's bleeding against Ethereum and it bleeds against Bitcoin. So, I mean, 400% is nice. 3,500% is nicer. Okay, it's a lot nicer. By the way, a lot of people keep talking about the upgrades that Ethereum's getting. The problem with this is that everyone assumes that once these upgrades happen this summer that Ethereum price has to go up. The problem is no matter what Ethereum does between now and then, they'll always assume the price has to go up. Like the price of Ethereum could go to $20,000 and then you get the upgrade and then everyone says, well, it has to keep going up. That's not how it works, right? Markets price things in before they happen. So I would assume that it could very much be one of those buy the rumor, sell the news events where, hey, it goes up leading up to it, but then once you get it, it kind of just calms down for a while. This is what happened with Cardano. I mean, after Shelley launched, Cardano just went sideways for a long time. So let's not forget about that. Okay, let's not forget about that. I mean, it pumped leading up to it, but then it just went sideways for a while. So let's not forget about that stuff happening. Remember, if you want to get the Into the Cryptoverse NFT, app.intothecryptoverse.com. I'm just going to let it run through the weekend. I'm not even going to say anything about it again on the public channel. If you want to get it, some of you guys are probably like, what is this thing? Like, why does he care about this? It's just a way that you guys can learn about NFTs without having to go spend a ton of money on them. So I'm just airdropping it to you. App.intothecryptoverse.com. Fill it out. Make sure the Ethereum address is saved. If you go there and you don't see a saved Ethereum address, then you're not getting it. Make sure it's saved. Make sure it's also an Ethereum address that you own the private keys to. Okay, if you don't own the private keys to it, like if you're sending me your Coinbase exchange Ethereum address, then Coinbase gets the NFT, not you. If you're sending me your Binance address, then Binance gets it, not you. Send me an address that you own the private keys to. Someone earlier asked me if BlockFi works. No. If you send me your BlockFi address, then BlockFi gets the NFT, not you. It needs to be one that you own. Yeah, as far as gold goes, I mean, a lot of you guys have questions on gold. As far as gold goes, the risk-adjusted returns on precious metals are frankly not that great. With that said, if you're looking at gold today, and you're up like crazy on crypto and you want to take some profits and slightly diversify, it's not the worst time to buy gold. I'll just say that. It's not the worst time to buy gold in the world. And I mean, again, I wouldn't be expecting this to go up like 10x or anything crazy, But I'm just saying, if you're wanting to offload some of your risk from crypto and put it into something that, you know, isn't going to drop by 75% at some point, then gold is looking a little bit attractive. It's actually recently above its 20-week. It had a nice candle here above the 20-week. Silver is another one to look at. And you can see it's riding that 20-week moving average as well. I get it, guys, you know, especially if a lot of you guys are my age. It's like, I don't really want to deal with gold. I don't really want to deal with crypto. I don't want to really deal with silver. I'm just saying, if just hear me out, right? If you just want to slightly diversify into something that, hey, it's not going to give you a 10x, but it might slowly go up with time, you might consider these. And really, one of the things to look at too is the gold silver ratio, because I've been talking about this one for a while, and we were discussing months ago. I mean, you can see the lines on here that the gold silver ratio is probably going to come back down. And since we drew that line here, and it actually went up and then came down. Okay, so we drew the line, it went up and then it came down. But right now we're here. So I was sort of speculating that the gold silver ratio will continue to bleed over the next several years. If you're wondering, well, what does that mean? It just means that I expect silver to outperform gold. That's what it means. I expect silver to outperform gold. That's just it just so you guys know, like, if some of you, I know that, you know, the younger people probably not that interested in gold and silver. It's fine. But if you're looking to have like a portfolio where you have stocks, okay, so remember, concentration can quickly grow your wealth. Diversification can preserve it. So if you have, say, stocks, you have crypto, you have real estate, right? You have real estate, and then you have, say, precious metals. So precious metals. Out of all four of these, this one, in my opinion, should be the lowest percentage. Okay, so precious metals should be the lowest percentage if you want it in your portfolio. I don't think you need to be going really hard on precious metals. Maybe like 5% is, I wouldn't go personally. I'm just telling you what I do, right? I don't go anywhere. I don't go above 5%. A lot of times it's not even close to 5%, but I certainly don't go above 5%. So with precious metals, I would say that's the one you would probably want to minimize. You don't want it to be more than a few percentage probably of your portfolio. That's my thinking on it. And it's not, it's based on the risk adjusted returns, right? And we did a video on this, and I'm just going to quickly pull it up so you guys know I'm not just blowing smoke here. Let me show you guys. So we did a video on gold, silver, platinum, and palladium, and I actually do own some palladium because it actually does come up pretty high. And we looked at a lot of different portfolio weights based on expected return, based on minimizing volatility, based on maximizing the Sharpe ratio. And I think, if you want to go down this rabbit hole, you can. But again, I would keep it to a fairly small percentage, because I don't expect precious metals to give you a 10x, but it could be a place where you could preserve some of your wealth. Real estate, I expect to stay somewhat hot for a few more years. At least a couple more years. I think it's going to stay relatively hot. There's a national housing shortage. Basically, all real estate's going for 5 to 7% above asking, like, minimum in a lot of different places. I know, because I just bought some real estate. And I mean, I feel like I'm that schmuck buying a bubble, but hey, I think it's going to go up for a couple more years. And I told you guys a year ago that I don't think we're about to have a housing market crash. There's no evidence for it, and in fact, we're going in the other direction. Okay, so real estate's going in the other direction than a lot of people expected. And again, there was never any evidence for a crash in the first place. So real estate, should definitely, in my opinion, should be higher than precious metals. And I think stocks should be higher than crypto. Okay, so it would go stocks, crypto, and real estate. I mean, for me, it's number 2 here, and let's just be honest, right? There's also cash, right? And I think that's another one that you guys should consider, like cash, bonds, earning interest. And with interest rates on crypto, you could be earning on USDC and USDT. I mean, 8 to 9%, guys. 8 to 9%. Not a bad way to hedge your bets. Definitely not a bad way to hedge. I mean, if you put in a lot of money, I mean, just think about it. In a year, like let's say let's just say let's say you put in 10 grand or something. In a year, you're talking about an extra $1,000. Doesn't seem like a bad deal to me. Again, you might say, well, hey, I can get more with crypto, but again, it's about diversifying a little bit, right? And not putting all your eggs in one basket. Because if crypto drops like 70%, you don't want your entire portfolio dropping 75% or something. So hopefully that gives you guys a brief overview of kind of what I see there for all the different asset classes. Yeah, and a lot of people ask me, do you actually buy the metal or do you? So my general thinking, okay, is that if it's, and again, I'm speaking to a wide audience, but and this is going to get me into some trouble with some people who are super fans of or super into precious metals. My general thinking is that if it's say less than 100K or something in one of those precious metals, I don't personally feel like I actually need to hold the physical asset. Like, I just, maybe an ETF or something. Now I get it, and I'm not going to argue the merits of that because I get why someone would hold a different opinion. I just, this is my preference. Is I don't want to be stacking. I don't want to be stacking gold bars or something in my house. So for me, I actually stick to something like that. So just. Again, it's going to be different for everyone, and I'll assure you that a lot of people who are into precious metals will swear that you should actually own the physical metal, and I cannot argue with them, and I'm not going to try to. I'm definitely not going to try to argue with them on that because they would win that argument. Okay, they would win that argument. Yeah, and you can buy Pax Gold. It's a crypto if you want to buy. Is it even? I'm not even sure if it's in the. Let me pull it up. So, Pax Gold, if you want to buy crypto, or Trax Gold, okay? That's a way you could get some exposure without having to go through other platforms. And if you go to market, you can see where it trades. So you can see it's on Binance, on Kraken, Uniswap. I mean, there you have it. Kyle says, this is why Bitcoin is better. He has no problem storing Bitcoin in his house. I guess that's true. All right, let me go back. And someone asked about a Polkadot listing on Coinbase. Hey, I don't know. I have no idea. I have no insight into a Polkadot listing on Coinbase. What I will say is that like ADA, it was hard to imagine that ADA wasn't on Coinbase forever. And I said, hey, in my opinion, it's worth buying ADA before it's listed on Coinbase. Same thing with Polkadot. I was buying it last year, but even today, if I didn't have any, I would definitely be buying it. And I feel like there's a good chance it's going to be listed on Coinbase at some point, but I honestly have no insight into it more than any of you guys. But I can say this, like if it is listed on Coinbase, it would be better to hold it before it's listed there than after. Yeah, BlockFi has Pax Gold as well. I know. And yeah, the other with real estate, you can always do rental income. As someone was, if you buy real estate, you can rent out houses. And hey, if you take some of your crypto profits and go buy up a couple, if you say go buy some rental properties or something at some point, and then you start renting them out, no matter what happens in crypto, no matter what happens, you'll still own those properties, and those properties will still generate you income. So, and no move in the crypto market will ever take that away from you. Okay, whether it goes up or down or sideways, you'll then own real estate, and you'll be able to then count on that rental income every month until you sell it. Okay, and then if you think about it, then you could use that rental income to maybe buy more crypto in the bear market or buy stocks, right? So it's all about generating those revenue streams. I use crypto as a secondary revenue stream. By the way, I get that everyone's sort of in different places, but there were a lot of people a year ago that were in a very different financial situation than they are in today. Very different. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in the chat that are in very different situations today, financial situations today, than they were a year ago. In the same manner, the people that stick around and stand the test of time, you'll be in different situations in the future. Okay? You will endure some hard times during that time period. But again, even the people that endured, even the people that bought up here, they had to endure a drop by Bitcoin of 83%. But it was the people that just stuck with it that ended up being the big winners. Okay, so it's the people that stick with it that end up being the big winners. Yeah, we'll try to get the risk level for silver. The only reason I've been putting it off is because crypto. I keep saying when crypto calms down, I'll do it. We'll do it. I guess if there's enough interest in it, we can do it. It's just that, and maybe now that crypto is getting super super hot, it makes sense to do it because people are going to be looking for a way to diversify and protect some of what they've made. One more reminder. If you haven't done it yet, go to app.intothecryptoverse.com and verify your Ethereum addresses there and save so that you receive the ITC NFT. Someone asked, can ADA and other alts make it to the 0.91 risk band? I don't think ADA can. A lot of them can't. I don't think a lot of them can. No. I think maybe Link can. I don't think Ethereum can. Bitcoin, as I always said, Bitcoin can, and Bitcoin already proved that it could because it went to the 0.91 risk band. Why Avalanche? Guys, look, there's a lot of hedges. Okay, now there's Ethereum. Okay, there's Ethereum. We'll start with that. There's ADA as a hedge. There's DOT. These are the two main ones that we talked about for a long time. I've also suggested Avalanche. We don't talk about it nearly as much, but it's another hedge. I mean, it's the same idea. Another one is Atom. Do any of you guys own Atom? It's on the risk dashboard, and I actually do think it's a decent project. It's a decent one. I'm guessing some of you guys own it, and I think it's a decent project. It's just the same thing, right? It's the same. It's like hedges, right? It's just like hedges. So there's ADA, there's DOT, there's Avalanche, there's Atom. I'm guessing some of you guys own Atom Cosmos, right? Some of you guys, if you've never heard of Atom Cosmos, so I'm sure some of you guys have it. And I've thought about talking about Atom a little bit more. I don't own any Atom, like I'll be honest, like I don't own any, but I do think it's a good project. So like I would choose Atom personally. I would choose Atom over Tezos. Okay, so if you were, I would choose Atom over Tezos, but I don't own either of them, but I would choose this one over this one. Yeah, Uni's a good project. Uni's still at $40. Guys, the problem is in a bull market, we can just talk about 100 different altcoins and they're all going up. There's going to come a phase where they go down for a while, and that's where you come in and you really get aggressive. And this is why in a bull market it's just easy because everything basically just goes up. Some go up more than others. I'm keeping a close eye on this Ethereum move because, I mean, look, we're up 9.5% on the day. Think about how crazy, I mean, we were saying this back over here that if we go up another like 9%, we'll get up to these levels, and now we're here. Now we're at 3,800. If we go up another 9% tomorrow, we'd be looking at almost a 4,150 Ether. I mean, think about how quickly things can change. It's no wonder, it's no wonder things crash so hard, is because they go up so quickly and don't look back for a while. I am moving. Someone asked if I'm moving. I am moving in about 5 or 6 weeks. How am I feeling about my position in VeChain? I'm feeling pretty good about it. I mean, it's sitting here at what, 0.684 risk. I mean, I'm feeling good about it. I don't really. I've taken some profits on it, as you guys can see, and I actually, you can see here, I invested it back in Ethereum. I mean, this happened a few weeks ago. That was a good move. I mean, was it not? I mean, look at this. This was the VeChain Ether. I sold VeChain back to Ether. Sorry, I don't know why I showed an avalanche. VeChain Ether. So yeah, I mean, I took some profits on VeChain up here. Back to Ether. It's come back down. And you can see on the stop limit, right? 3/15 or 1/5 if you prefer. I don't know why I have 3/15 today, 1/5. Back to Ethereum. And then Ethereum's going up like crazy, and now that Ethereum's going up, we recognize that the valuation of Bitcoin, its valuation against Bitcoin is getting pretty heated, and as it continues to arch up here, you go back to Bitcoin. And this is how I play the game. This is how I play the crypto game. You just take profits and you take them back to the lower risk assets. Yeah, I mean, I think the total crypto market cap will probably go to somewhere around 10 trillion, somewhere in this market cycle, plus or minus a few trillion. Maybe like 7 to 13 trillion is somewhat what I'm looking for. I've often contended that the data suggests that the cycle will lengthen. I've often contended that. Now, if things continue, I mean, if Bitcoin goes to like 120K this year, it might change how I feel about that. For now, I think it's still theoretically possible that the cycle goes into 2022, but we'll have to see how the rest of the year plays out, and we'll have to see how far extended we get from our fair value logarithmic regression trend line of the total market capitalization. So I do think we'll have diminishing returns for sure. I still like to think that the cycles are going to lengthen, but I think we still need to press on for a few more months. I mean, let's see how this summer goes. I mean, if Bitcoin's sitting at 50K by the end of the summer, then it seems like things are going to be cooling off for a while. A lot of people, there's a lot of channels. I don't know if you guys follow other channels, but I go on some of these other channels, and a lot of them think we're going to go to like $300,000 to $400,000 Bitcoin by September. So if that happens, which I'm not saying it can't, but if that happens, then I'll be running for the hills with my profits, okay? And I'll just say, all right, guys, $300,000 to $400,000 Bitcoin is just ridiculous, and I'm gone. I'm gone with the profits. Let's talk about stocks. Let's talk about something else because it's not going up forever. I don't think Bitcoin's going to make it to 300K by September, but there's a lot of people out there that do. So we'll see. We'll see if that actually plays out. I'm very skeptical that it would go to 300K by September, but there's some people that swear by it, that swear it's going to happen, and it's like they don't think that it can't not happen. And so, we'll see what happens. We'll see if it goes to 300K by then. I don't think it's going to, but we'll see. Yeah, run to the hills. Yaman asks, would I still recommend someone with a low budget to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum since the ROI will come in slower than lower gains compared to an alt such as ADA or Link? Yeah, I think anyone should start with Bitcoin or Ethereum because it protects your downside risk. I think you should always start with Bitcoin and Ethereum and then go with the other altcoins. This is my suggestion. You don't have to follow my suggestion. If you go your route and go altcoins first, you could make more money, right? You could. I'm not claiming that my route necessarily makes you more money. I'm saying that from a risk management standpoint, starting with Bitcoin and Ethereum is the best approach. That way, if there is a correction, you're not losing 90% of your portfolio by being overexposed into some altcoins. So I would say start with Bitcoin, then Ethereum, and then go to altcoins. You can do it in the reverse order and you might make more money. It's just a riskier approach. Mark says he's new to the space. Is having your own private wallet recommended, or is it okay to leave it in an exchange? The entire crypto market, anyone in crypto long enough will tell you not your keys, not your crypto. And I tend to agree. I mean, I have a lot of my crypto in private wallets that I hold the keys to. But I also do have some in centralized wallets because I'm earning 12% on Polkadot, on Kraken. I'm earning interest on BlockFi. So I think that it's good to have some of your crypto in private wallets because if these exchanges or whatever get hacked, you don't want to lose all your crypto. But I also feel like, having some on some of these exchanges where you're earning decent interest rates is not necessarily the worst idea in the world. I mean, it goes against a lot of what crypto was about. But again, I'm not here to be altruistic about crypto. I'm just here to make money. Not necessarily like, lead the crypto charge to revolutionize everything. I mean that's cool, right? That'd be cool. But let's make some money along the way. Okay, RG says, great stream. So which is the best to buy at the moment, DOT or ADA? That's a tough question. DOT or ADA? I can tell you what I would do. Okay, let me pull up DOT. So if I had to choose one at this point, like if you said, Ben, you have to pick one between DOT or ADA, at this moment, I would pick Polkadot. Because Polkadot has not broken out of this sort of reaccumulation band that it's in. The prior all-time high is close to $50. ADA already has. I mean, if you had asked me a few weeks ago, I probably would have said it's a wash. But again, this is why I don't day trade, because it's hard to make these decisions. But if you made me choose at the current valuations, ADA just pumped. From this level here. It just pumped about 48% or so. And it's fairly extended, I'm guessing, from the 20-week SMA. So the 20-week SMA is all the way down here at 90 cents, and we're all the way up at $1.61. If you go to DOT and look at the 20-week SMA and see where we currently are, we're a lot closer. We're a lot closer to it. So I would personally, at these valuations, like, again, I'm not a day trader. I'm just saying, like, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick DOT. But if you had asked me a couple weeks ago, I probably would have just said it's a wash. Okay. Like if you asked me over here, I would have just said it either one. But what I would recommend is maybe you could always just DCA a little bit of both of them. And then you have some of both. You don't necessarily need to split it up. But if I had to pick one at these valuations, I might pick DOT just because ADA just had a pretty impressive pump against the U.S. dollar. I'm still very bullish on ADA. I mean, I still very bullish on ADA. Remember, if you guys want to earn interest on your ADA, there's the ITC stake pool. So go earn interest on your ADA. Hey, Ethereum's moving. We're putting in new all-time highs. Look at these minute candles. Look at these minute candles. Ether Bitcoin's now above 0.65. We just hit 38.63. So this is a new all-time high for Ether. I told you guys this phase of the cycle can move quickly, and it can go up a lot quicker than most people think it can. I mean, this is at 38.15. We're already approaching 0.67 risk. We're starting to enter the phase of, a few weeks ago, people were telling me, we go from the phase of people telling me, oh, we're never going to reach the 0.7 to 0.8 risk band, or maybe the 0.8 to 0.9 risk band because they're too far extended. So we go from the phase of people saying we can never make it to those levels in the short term, and then people are going to start asking me, well, maybe we can go past them in the short term. So again, I think this region right here is the systematic, maybe take profit back to Bitcoin phase, and you can do it dynamically as we go up. Okay, you do it dynamically as we go up. Bryce says he was looking into the Ethereum dynamic DCA sheet and having issues with it. Should the projected future peak be editable? Yeah, it should be. I'll fix it after the stream. The problem is people mess with it. Like, a lot of people mess with it, and then it like messes. I mean, it's not their fault, right? They're playing with different settings and stuff, and then it kind of messes things up if they're cutting and pasting rather than copying and pasting. I'll try to go fix it after the stream. Have we ever discussed Maker? I have mentioned it a couple times. I actually do like that coin. I do like that crypto. I think it's probably going to do fairly well, but we don't really talk about it much on the channel because I try to keep it limited to only a certain number of coins. But I do think that, sorry, MKR, I do think that Maker is a relatively decent coin. And I mean, it's up significantly, right? I'm not encouraging anyone to go chase this pump. But I mean, you can see it's up about, it's like a lot of other cryptos, like it's up about 10x or so over the last 5 or 6 months. I mean, it started at like 535 and now it's about 10x above that. Just like ADA, ADA was back in December, ADA was at like, 10 cents and now it's $1.60. So it did more than a 10x. But yeah, I mean, Maker, I think this is a solid project. It does get my approval. So if you have this coin, I do think it's a good choice. Well, guys, Bitcoin, sorry, let me delete some of this. Bitcoin's approaching 60K. So we are, we're flirting with we're getting close to flirting with price discovery. These are weekly candles, and you can see the weekly candles topped out at around 60, right around 60K. Okay, right around 60K, 59,975 on this exchange. So we're actually approaching the prior all-time high for the weekly close. That's what we're approaching right now. We had the wick that went up all the way to almost 65K, but I'm just sort of showing you where we are in the grand scheme of the weekly candles. Hopefully this stream has been useful to you guys. We've been going about an hour and a half, so I think maybe I should get going. But hopefully it's been useful. Remember to check out the Telegram channel, the alerts channel. If you want to get access to that, just message ITC_admin_bot. So this one, and it'll add you to the alerts channel. And then if you want to get the Into the Cryptoverse NFT, check out app.intothecryptoverse.com. So why don't we wrap it up there? Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We talked a lot about crypto, but also some other stuff. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is just going to be the premium video for the week. I was going to do a recap video, but I figured, hey, why don't we just do it live and answer some questions? Bitcoin is now at 59.5, so we are approaching 60K. So again, remember, if it gets into price discovery mode, things will get interesting with the Ether Bitcoin ratio. That'll wrap it up, guys. I will see you guys next time. Bye.